Okay, all right. So today we're diving into one of the most mysterious and profound texts in mystical Judaism, the Zohar. You've probably heard it called the Book of Splendor, but what is it really? Is it a book or a commentary or a spiritual map of the universe? And what does it mean for our personal journey toward light, wisdom, and divine connection? To uncover these layers, I've invited Roland Ramos, a student and teacher of Kabbalah. He's a member of a number of esoteric orders, and he's here to guide us through the fundamentals, not from a religious viewpoint, but from a mystical one. This is Maldo's Magic.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Maldo.
Roland, thank you for coming on the show. It's been a while. I've been itching to get you back on the show, but as you know, I've been away for the past 3 months on
Yeah, welcome back.
on the Camino, right? And whew, it feels good to be back and to have you back on the show and to talk about this topic that I know one episode is not going to be enough for it.
No, it's not, but what you're doing is kind of like a spiritual community service
Yeah,
where you're really, bringing to light a bunch of, disparate ideas that because there's so many different people that are at different levels of conscious and understanding
yeah,
that we can just take one thing at a time. Now the Zohar, it's like so the Zohar is specific to what? Kabbalah, right? And
correct.
it's a now the Zohar is called the Book of Splendor because Zohar that's what it translates to. But it's actually the like we said the primary text, one of a few, one of
Yeah,
many of in Kabbalah. But this one is special. It's special because it radiates energy. It radiates energy. It's like radiation. It just exudes, and that comes from one of the OG tenets of all the orders comes back to is what is a book comprised of? It's a book comprised of words, right? What are words comprised of? Letters. And we know that the Hebrew letters are often referred to in all these mystical systems, right? Yes, we speak about Greek and about, yeah, give me some other ones. Greek, we have
Latin.
Latin, pictographically different. You have the whole Asian aspect that, we can really tap into if you wanted to illustrate that. But instead, we have our biggest touchstone, especially by the Camino where you were just at. Hebrew was that spiritual touchstone. So the Zohar is a collection of letters that form words, that form ideas. Okay, very lofty ideas. Um, and the way that the the whole point of talking about the letters
Hmm.
is that I'm gonna pull a part of the Zohar down right now. We were just talking last week about the you read a section of the Zohar every part of the year. So every
Okay.
year you go through the Zohar. And recently, we were just talking about Lecha and Vayera. These are two books in the Zohar. And this is my copy of the Zohar,
Okay.
but it's actually what I have is a 22 volume set, with the 23rd being an index. So it's quite large. It's really quite
This is my
big.
first copy of the Zohar. I only have one so far. I think it's maybe the first one, and
Yeah.
I have it here just in case, but, just so at least so it's in the area. But I respect it because I know you have all the volumes and stuff. So
Well, yeah, and this is Hebrew to English, and this is from the Bergs, from the Kabbalah Center,
okay,
and yeah, so like that's the lineage of this book. So before I even open it up, we have to just acknowledge that inside here are a bunch of letters that have been organized in a certain fashion. And when you read Hebrew, you read right to left. So it is said in all circles that if you're going to open the Zohar, first you thank the people who wrote the Zohar. It's important to just acknowledge, you know, you thank the person who wrote the book for creating this bank of knowledge, and there's a lot of power in that. And then you can open it up. So, but when you do, luckily I have an English to and Hebrew translation, and I think most people do. But it's important that when we read the English part, we immediately go to the other section and scan the letters and the words. Do we understand them? Most likely not, unless you know biblical Hebrew.
Yeah.
But the simple action of scanning the letters reveals so much latent energy. And this is accounted by all schools that discuss Hebrew letters. So I know that in we look at the tarot, and
Hmm.
each Hebrew letter is connected to an a trump card, right?
Right.
Or what is it called? Let's not
The
let's major
majors?
arcana.
Yeah,
Yeah,
major
let's
arcana.
stick
Yeah.
to major arcana.
Yeah.
So each Hebrew letter, I actually learned tarot because I was studying Hebrew. I wasn't looking for anything other than a study tool. And the tarot came along. And I had already bought a deck of Hebrew cards with all the little. There's a lot of little dots and lines. They're called doggets that surround these words
Yeah.
and give you different kind of pronunciations. And they also, on another level, mean different things depending on uh, if you know how to read the Zohar.
Okay.
So it's like there's so many layers to the writing. But I ended up learning Tarot because I was studying Hebrew. And but the simple idea is you take one passage from the Zohar, the Book of Splendor, and you could even just do random, like guidance, we got, and you read it, and all of a sudden you're confronted with, I see a tav, an aleph, and that's just the first word,
Hmm.
you know. So already, we're seeing the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the tav,
Hmm.
and just across from it is an aleph. And an aleph is the first letter of the
Yep.
Hebrew alphabet. And that's the way it starts. So, I mean, do you see the symbolism you right there?
Oh yeah.
It's telling us right there that, then you have the dogishes. So this book right here, I just looked at the first word of one little point, and already there's a lot to dig into there.
Hmm.
So what is one to do? You could either dig up your deck and dive in, or just continue scanning. And then the level of familiarity that we develop through reading tarot,
Hmm.
all of a sudden when you scan, you start to read with the emotions that we've developed with the correspondences. And then you don't have to know a word to know that, Lamed is justice in
Yep.
in the major in one major system.
Oh yeah.
And Ket is strength, and there's this idea of the lion and the smiling maiden opening up the lion already. So we're seeing, and I'm just journeying over one part of a word, and the all the correspondences and emotions. That's the familiarity inspires the fluidity. The familiarity that we have with the Hebrew letters translates to a fluidity in the reading, and it's a conscious intake of emotional connection. Yeah, you could just even if you go quickly and just look at the whole thing, you have received a layer of energy, and imbued in that is taking the time to read it.
Hmm.
It just there's so much there, and then it opens up a lot of other questions. It's like,
Oh yeah, I
what
bet.
are we reading? Like, what are we reading? Like, what is the Zohar? You
It's
know?
funny too
Uh,
because go ahead, sorry, you can go on.
oh, no, no, it is funny. It's all funny, but I realize like you have a lot of questions, and I think that was the first one. So,
Yeah, so it's interesting because we were talking before, right, about like how sometimes the topics might be a little seem random, right? or it's
Hmm.
guided from my intuition. But
Yes.
for me personally, I just came back from the area where the Zohar was written,
I
right? And
know.
I'll let you answer who it was. But I was in the area, and to further amplify the symbolism, I have the flag behind me of the actual region in Spain. So I'll start with the question. So who wrote the Zohar?
Well, the Zohar, first of all, is a compendium of
Okay.
writings. We were talking about who wrote the Zohar. What is it that we're reading?
Yeah.
Before we talk about who, and there are most definitely who's, some
Okay.
more than others. In fact, you're in spending time in the south of France and mainly in Spain. So already we see that the geographic connection
Hmm.
to Hebrew is like, how does this distance, how
Yeah.
can we square that circle in terms of learning about this Hebrew compendium of knowledge that didn't come from Israel but was written in Spain.
Yeah.
So before we get into that, what is it? So I said it's a collection of books. It's a collection of story. All these stories are commentary on the first five books of the Bible, right? And each of the contributors to the thoughts around the Bible are captured in Zohar. And so much like if there's an idea by a really learned, elevated, spiritually intelligent, thinker of the time, it'll be
Mhm.
recorded. And then, subsequent to that, over generations and students, if there's additional knowledge that is just imparted and must be collected, then it was attached to the Zohar in a way. So now you have the commentaries on these stories that really speak about what is it that they were trying to say in the Bible. Like what is it that was being communicated? What is a subtext? But it's all translated through the tree of life, in some parts,
Yeah.
because um, the timeline that the Zohar captures is vast. We can start like with the writings of Shimon Bar Yochai. He's a
Hmm.
second century, Kabbalist. Some say, like the originator of these writings. The man led a fascinating life, and he had a number of fascinating, learned, students. Rabbi Akiva being one of them. Another, like I said, contributor to the Zohar. Now you can look these, scholarly figures up, and you'll see just that's where the wellspring of much of our familiarity with Kabbalah comes from. Uh, and so these lineages begin to be collected in the Zohar. So the thing is, you have the older parts, which is like second century till like 1400, and then you have later parts that have been added, and the contributors are vast in number. There are some schools, like there's a great author.
Hmm.
Um, this is a fantastic book for those who are interested, by Gershom Scholem.
Okay.
He's a touchstone in terms of learning about Kabbalah, and but the thing is that the history of each of these contributors, it's just it's so long that when we every idea that we can kind of connect to contemporary Kabbalah, each one of those ideas comes from a different contributor to the
Okay.
Zohar. They didn't just all come from one person, but we've come to recognize them under the auspices of Kabbalah via the Zohar.
Okay.
So so if you notice, like I didn't say one person wrote it. I just kept it to, just a couple different people. Now I'm sure there's a name from the north of Spain that you might want to let reign.
Yeah. So some say that, or the actual person said that someone else wrote it, right? But when they found
Yeah,
out after that, it sounded like, or due to the writing, that it could have been him, and it's Moses de Leon, right?
yeah, yeah. See, there's Moses de Leon was, the person to thank for putting it together.
Or Rabbi, right? Shimon Bar Yochi.
Shimon Bar Yochai is one of the writers, uh, who Leon brought together in this compendium of writers.
Okay.
So, so you see, like, there's a large bunch of writing that Bar Yochai contributed to the Zohar, and there's also some that Rabbi Akiva, his disciple
Mm-hmm.
or his student, added his commentary to the Zohar. And there are there's a lot of minor writers, but who were no less important to the development of what we know today to be Kabbalah. And a lot of it comes from the area
Mm-hmm.
in which you spent the last 3 months.
Yeah.
In fact, I was there a year or so before, and I was checking in with you because it was like I felt like I was so elevated being in the area where this kind of contemplation was allowed to thrive. And, this kind of scholarly pondering. And I just wanted to ask you, like, when you tapped into that, like, what was your sense of the effervescent atmosphere about Kabbalah there?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different energies there, right? So,
Hmm.
and a lot of my my trip too was also connecting to like the Templars as well, right? But the Templars were, yeah, they were there too as well in a lot of the areas, as far as like in the past and currently. But it's said that a lot of Kabbalah that we got, a lot of the stuff from them too as well, they had something to do with getting some type of knowledge, right, when they were in Jerusalem at the time of the Crusades. But the energy in Castilla y Leon, that is the area where it was a hotbed. In Burgos, Burgos was a big spot.
Hmm. Yeah.
Estella, that was another spot too as well. There's a lot of symbolism there. There was so much stuff along the way, and then Leon too, was heavy. So I felt it heavy all throughout that area, and most of that area in between the big cities is called the Meseta. The Meseta is just like just hills, miles and miles of nothing but hills of landscapes of just open like plains, and at the time I went, in the springtime it would be green. At the time I went, it was like yellows and browns, right? Because the grass already kind of changed color, and to me it was so magical. It was
I
beyond the
bet.
point, to a point where like I changed different like jewelry pieces. As I was going to different regions in that region, I was made sure I had the Tree of Life on. So I was really trying to get into it, and then which I'll discuss in further
Yeah, I
podcasts or
bet.
books. But I did invocation. I did a lot of magic out there. I was able to invoke the energy of the Kabbalah and Mos de Leon in that area. So I was really like absorbed myself in it throughout there. And then there's a couple other Kabbalistic rituals that I was able to do out there. So yeah, for me it was just embracing it and just living it, just like connecting to it historically out there. And it was rich. The energy it was amazing out there. It was really it's hard to put it into words. That's how great it was.
Well, I can only imagine, but I do look forward to you talking about it at length or online,
Yeah,
especially
yeah, of course.
from yeah, the Templars aspect. When you said it was the Templars,
Yeah, because remember,
that's
people. This is the thing about Templars too. I'll touch on it briefly. Is that
yeah,
um, they they were they had permission, and they had their station. There were 9 knights had their station on Temple Mount from one of the kings there, the king of Jerusalem at the time. This is when the Europeans kind of took over, right? One of the first Crusades. They had permission to dig under the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. So
yeah,
if you're digging on the Temple Mount, what are you bound to find there? So they said they found a lot of knowledge, and they said there was a lot of Kabbalistic stuff, and Kabbalistic it just kind of like encompasses like the mysticism of Judaism, right? If
hmm
that
yeah,
if that was once where the temple was. So yeah, they were very connected to it because in their inception, they were in Jerusalem, in the center of where underneath the Temple Mount, and they were excavating for about 9 years. They weren't really protecting that many pilgrims as we learned about them. They were actually excavating, and they were actually looking for knowledge. So and it's a whole other topic, and it's amazing, and I love the history of it. And as a brother, right? So I know you're recently a brother, right? And you know what I'm
Hmm.
talking about, right? We're both fellow crafts, right? And this work in the quarries, and
Hmm.
even there, if you remember some of the stuff from the first degree, right, and the questions and stuff, and it mentions a certain type of place in Jerusalem, right? So,
Hmm.
and a lot of it, the symbolism all connects, all it's all coming from that place, from that central focus, right? The Kabbalah, as we know, the Hebrew, as we know, is from that area, right? Meaning the culture and the language and the religion is from that holy land, what was
Yeah.
called Israel, right? So it's very interesting, and it's to me it's just amazing
Yeah.
how now, but the Zohar was compiled or written or put together all the way in Spain.
I know. I'm shaking my head here because, like, um, okay, so that idea of this fountain of knowledge, right? And the idea of like basking in it. It's is it available to everyone? Yes. Yes. But does everybody get it? Does everybody tune in? Is it there for everybody? Not necessarily. How
No,
many unenlightened people walk around, not understanding that where they are is like this imbued with spiritual history and energy. By that rationale, anywhere can be imbued with, tons of spiritual energy. The thing is
oh,
that the what makes Jerusalem so, I don't want to trivialize it, so special is so much happened there. And like that really ties in to, you can see how it ties into why people look at Hebrew as this well trodden lane of existence that so many kind souls through the years have consciously, relied on to communicate energy and emotion. So so much spiritually has happened in Jerusalem. Of course, that's why it has so much energy. But that's equally why, these Hebrew letters are used to transmit this energy. So I guess this notion of being here or there, the fact that the energy of the letters bridged any kind of distance, just speaks to the importance of the message.
oh yeah.
And like anybody who's going to Jerusalem is already tuned in to receive that message. People can live like right there and be totally existing on the 1%, like the nothing exists but whatever strife and struggle they have in life, you know. So I think what's going on is I'm talking about like whatever it is that's being the tuning, the destroying out this radio signal, spirituality. You have to tune into it in order to really begin that journey, you know, um, kind of like what calls people to walk, la Camino Sagrada,
hmm Yeah. So
No, but
basically,
people aren't just going to do it unless they're called to do it.
you're right. So, well, what's that phrase too? Um, Many are called, but few are chosen, right?
Hmm.
So it's interesting because it's like you're saying, you could be living there. You could be living right around the areas of where, had high influences, or was a
Yeah.
hotbed for it, right? Or was the center of a certain language and alphabet that's magical, right? That's
Hmm.
and ancient, and you could still not touch on it. So it's almost like there's layers and layers of different realms within this realm. And there's like
Hmm.
I like to call it. It's like maybe a modern day, new age term, collective consciousness, right?
Yeah.
So there's different collective consciousness. Whether you're a person that likes to go sports in the bar, that they're a collective consciousness. They're not really tapping into this Hebrew stuff.
I
You
kind
know?
of like it to be, yeah, it's kind of like the soup and the spoon. The soup is never going to taste the soup. The spoon will never taste the soup. It's going to go in and out. It will never taste it. It's
I
not the
like that.
spoon's fault. It's just it's not
No,
trying to be conscious enough of what it's submerged in. You
correct.
know,
It's just being used as a tool.
yeah, and we are those tools. So we either tune ourselves in or we just don't care. And either one is fine. But it's kind of like one of the red pill, blue pill. It's like once you know, like how do you stop knowing? We have to
Yeah,
be willing to also like the tower card, be able to have our minds blown. You know,
yeah.
you know.
It's interesting too because the tower card too, and not on all decks, but that lightning flash usually is the same route of the Tree of Life lightning flash.
Mhm. Yeah,
Not some, not all.
yeah, yeah. I got my little reference here.
There we go. Nice, excellent. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
mine in the back there in the corner. If you see it
Oh
right
my,
over here.
yeah. I think you have a few of them there. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
No,
just
but
one wall. That's just one wall. So
oh, hey,
let's go to the questions if you don't mind.
yeah, of
Um,
course.
but I mean, there's no rush, right? Where I'm comfortable here, but I don't want to infringe on your time too much, right? So
Okay.
I think we kind of answered the first question. There was a second part of the first question about the rabbi. Do you want to go into that one, or do you want to go into the next one after that?
Next one after that.
Okay, so let's go into this is obviously this might have been something that we spoke about on past podcasts, but someone might be tuning in for the first time, right? On this podcast in particular, we always recommend maybe watch the first podcast where
Hmm.
Roland explains about the four worlds, right? So the
Yeah.
next question is, what is Kabbalah really about?
That's a really good question because what it was for teaching and
Yes.
learning and what it is to now, it takes on many different personalities, I believe, over the years. I mean, Kabbalah for me, when I started learning, was about finding a bit of the what's going on behind the curtain kind of situation. I was What happened was my father told me to study Kabbalah, and he's like, "Look, forget about any other spiritual pursuit at the moment. If you really want to understand, Rosicrucianism, or if you
Hmm.
want to understand, what's going on behind any kind of esoteric order, you know, they're all study Kabbalah. So just focus on that. I'm going to send you some books." And so the books that I ended up reading at like 19 ended up being the basis for all of my studies going forward. Zohar as just the book of behind Kabbalah. But what does it mean to me or to
Hmm.
anybody? What it meant then was very much trying to understand the fabric of reality, and what it means now means that I can help other people kind of start that journey as well, but in a way that is more accountable to a higher version of yourself. Think about it this way. You know, um, I can have students that are busy 9 to 5. They're caught up. They have to do their thing and they have to pick up the kids at this. They have to make sure that they feed the dog. And maybe they can squeeze an hour on Tuesday, to talk to me.
Hmm.
There's that. And that's fine. I think it's really hard to be spiritual in these times anyway, but that's like the test. Conversely, someone who just was released from jail, someone who's now entering into this crazy paradigm and has to get reacquainted with a reality that is both alluring and yet nervous to interact with, you know and how is Kabbalah helpful to each person? Those are two distinct questions, because those are two distinct lives. you know One recedes into Kabbalah as a stolen, beauty that they can find a respite in their busy life. And the other one can learn Kabbalah in terms of like deciding how they can, start making better decisions and feel good about where they are in life, you know? And those two positions can be juxtaposed. immediately. Because the one thing about Kabbalah always reinforces is the idea of opposites, paradox at its pinnacle, at its pinpoint. You know, it's something that helps. How? I mean, just look at the symbolism of the tree of life. You know, it's made to look like the shape of a man. I'm gonna hold this one up. It's made to look like the shape of a man. You know, because the word because everything that comes after that word
Hmm.
is reason enough to study. It's the shape of man because as above, so below.
Yep.
Because you are me. Because compassion and kindness and these things that can be interpreted as weaknesses are really important in terms of going and furthering our own spiritual development past these four walls. We aren't the be all end all. We're a stage in humanity's spiritual development, and Kabbalah reminds us of that.
Excellent. That's great. And it's funny too. I want to really touch on the question a little bit too as well, as far as like what Kabbalah is really about. And different for me, like I didn't have family that kind of told me to learn it. I
Mhm.
just wanted. I just started seeking. I went through some crazy stuff, and I just started meditating, and then I just had like a spiritual awakening, and it just
Yeah.
I was just down a road of gnosis, just learning, and I wanted to
Yeah.
keep learning hidden stuff. But what I found, because I grew up like reading the Bible a lot, right? Grew up very religious household, and I thank God for that, right? Is that Kabbalah to me was like it showed me the roadmaps and the key words to how to understand the Bible better. Like when you're reading Proverbs to understand wisdom and what sphere that connects to, right? And understanding, what understanding is when they talk about that. Oh, now they're on this side. Like it's now
Mm.
you're on that side. And then and to me that's how I once I started learning it, I started looking at the Bible differently and then looking at the world differently because every time I hear key words or see key colors that connect to different spheres,
Mm.
I'm connecting to those different levels of consciousness. And then the one I talk about the most is Yesod. Yesod is like
Mm.
the one that comes in the most. Why? Because I say this: when we dream, when we meditate, we leave Malkuth and we go up to Yesod, the astral realm. And if you look, according to Kabbalah or Hermetic Kabbalah, what planet connects to that sphere is the moon, and that's what's out at night when you're dreaming. So to me, it's poetic, it's beautiful, and that's how like I like to just me, I just absorb the symbolism of Kabbalah, and just I see it everywhere in life, especially in the Bible, because a lot of the stuff we're reading, especially the Zohar, comes from their interpretations of the Bible. Or to me, it's a roadmap. It's the answers to the test, the answers to the to understanding a deeper level of the Holy
Lucky
Scriptures.
you, lucky you. I'll tell you because, like, the circuitous route that you took to Kabbalah
Hmm.
has led me to the Bible. Whenever
Isn't
was
it?
I was
Isn't it crazy?
yeah,
To me, it's just like you, it's synchronicity at its finest. It's like how like opposite ways of coming to it, right? But it's still comes together at a certain point in time when both have acquired a certain understanding enough to have a conversation about it.
I love it. And the introduction of Plato, the New
Yeah.
Republic, and the elevated philosophers from the old world, into the new thinkers of today. You know, everybody goes back and cites the Bible as some kind of foundational piece that started discussion in terms of judgment. What I'm wondering, what I've been hearing a lot is like, how come why were the gods in the Old Testament so angry?
What
Why were
happened?
they so mean?
You're cutting out a little bit. Sorry.
I said something that's been coming up recently. A lot of people have been asking me is like, what? Why were the gods in the Old Testament so mean?
Really?
Yeah, the wrath of the gods in the Old Testament. You know,
Look how people
and
acted back then.
Well, were they not just like us? I mean, we look at
They,
Greek gods, we look at all these stories too, right?
yeah,
They seem to have the attributes of normal humans, you know,
they were more tribal back then.
anger,
There was more.
lust.
There was more wars, and there was, I think, more bloodshed back then. Bloodshed was just common, taking over kingdoms. Yes, there's wars now, but it's not as we don't have Washington going against this state or that state. It's not like how it was in the Greek times, right? Or in the Middle East. It was literally, reading the Bible, different, taking over the Canaanites, taking over these tribes. It was tribal
Yeah,
warfare.
everywhere. Yep. And I don't really have an answer for the question as to why, but in the New Testament, it seems like it's just a different personality of God comes out, and of course, it focuses mostly on the Christ consciousness, obviously.
Yeah.
But
It's a transition. I think it's because the New Testament it's fulfilling the prophecies of the Old Testament, right? That
yeah,
they had to our consciousness had to go through trials and tribulations and had to evolve into and be and the ground had to be fertile enough for the Christ consciousness to come and and spread its influence along the fertile ground. Like they had, the conscience had to be so either fed up or went through so much turmoil to the point of trying it a certain way, forcing it right without love as the center, um, and then to the point where it was enough fertile ground for the Christ conscious to come and slowly but pretty rapidly infect the consciousness of the world, to Christianity and this thought of helping one another,
giving
right?
us that shin energy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yes. That's
Yeah.
why I love. That's why, and it's funny because on my trip, there's a number. There was a number that was prevalent throughout my whole trip. It's incredible because it's been coming up even recently. The number was five, and if you know the Tetragrammaton, the four-letter name of God, right? But with the fifth added, we get Yeshua,
Mhm.
and that and it's funny because the whole time that was happening to me, and I was seeing pentagrams even on church. I found a pentagram on a church. So the five-pointed star and the five and Yeshua, like that consciousness, which was my intention, and was all around. It was all around, and it was just amazing.
I bet. But we were talking about the New Testament in the Zohar. The New Testament and the Zohar have nothing to do with each other. The Zohar, like I said, is only on the first five books of the Bible.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's why
Yeah. Isn't that
it's
interesting?
important
Wow. Yeah.
to distinguish that, and that kind of evolution that allows for Christ consciousness to develop and enter. I think speaks to where we are as a global culture. But you can see how varied we are even in that. You know,
Oh yeah. So does the Zohar interpret the Torah as a living symbolic map of consciousness? Is that like the idea of light within darkness, or every shadow hides divine purpose? Like what is like how does it interpret the Torah? Like you said, the five books, and the funny thing is this: we go back to that number five too, which is
Mhm.
for me, it's just that number's been everywhere. So if you want to kind of touch on that,
Well, first of all, yeah, this when we read the Zohar, it's going to reference, the four realms, the four worlds. It's going to reference constantly, so you have to know which one of the four worlds and the ideas behind it. The Zohar is going to reference aspects of the Kabbalistic tree of life, including our beloved Yesod.
hmm
So when we talk about how the relationship between Yesod and Chesed, it's and the discussions around it, it's going to be cited in here. They're going to be angelic references. They're going to be references that talk about, the different members or the cast of the Bible. So these stories in the Bible are there are, from better or worse, um, stories to learn from. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um, they are there to inform us how to be better people or how to make good decisions. The Zohar simply takes a story and spells it out. But when they spell it out with references to the Kabbalistic tree of life or to certain divine, angelic, or energetic spheres. So with that knowledge, when you open this up, your ability to find the light in the darkness, or is helped. You had asked a specific question, like, the hidden light in this, like, where is it? And I wanted to make sure I touched upon that.
Yeah.
The fact that you're even looking at this podcast or listening to it speaks to the seeker's, penchant for pursuing that knowledge. And the thing that I love about this particular collection of the Zohar is that in the beginning of each and every one of them, it gives you a breakdown of all the different casting characters and energies, like a glossary,
Hmm.
of what we're going to be talking about. I don't know if it has that in yours, but
Yeah, I'm looking. I have the Tree of Life in the beginning. It has like the
Mhm.
original like Hebrew like text, the Zohar, which is fantastic. I always love
Yeah.
how the front covers are and stuff.
Oh
Um,
yeah. And like even there you see Hebrew letters, and to glaze, to cast your eyes at them is very helpful in
yeah.
terms of just like understanding what we're getting into and how to interpret the fathers. Yeah, but here they give you a bit of a knowledge that there are going to be certain words that are going to be translated from Hebrew into English.
Yep.
Like Abba. Abba means father. It's
Father.
not just that.
Right.
It's not that famous band from the '70s. You know, and so that they help you with the knowledge that there's going to be certain words that they're going to touch upon. Um, but just to that knowledge, just to that note, there are so many schools to help you learn about the Zohar and about the Kabbalah that I would say to anybody who's interested is like seek them all out. Look at them all. Read them all. There's not one authority. You know, even though many will claim to be.
Yeah, of course.
Uh, but what is important is to understand that that Kabbalah, when translated to English, means to receive.
Yep.
So that speaks to the consciousness of the school delivering the information. You know, um, but there's nothing like I said, Gershon is a great start. This hasn't even had the old book smell.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and but there's something beautiful that you touched upon, man. That it helped you with the Bible. And there was a book that a friend of mine gave me as a kid, which is the Psalms. The
The
Psalms,
Psalms. Oh, really?
the book of Psalms. Yeah, and in Hebrew, the book of Psalms is called the Tehillim. So this book is called the Tehillim,
Okay.
and the Tehillim is a book of Psalms. Now, growing up, my exposure to the Psalms came by way of reggae music and writing reggae music and participating in Nyabingi sessions with Rastafarian culture. So and only later on would I learn that the same the same cited scriptures in the Psalms were the ones that were often referenced in the synagogues. I mean, in Rastafarian culture as well.
Okay.
And I thought that was just like mind blowing, just how far and how wide, the spiritual message behind Kabbalah it just radiated throughout cultures.
It's amazing.
Yeah, but this is a great book for studying Hebrew, for just learning.
Okay.
Yeah, because each psalm, everybody has their favorite psalm.
Of course.
The Hebrew to English translations allow you to really put them together. And there are a lot of apps where you can actually hear what it sounds like while you read and learn to speak or read with fluency that old biblical Hebrew.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
All right, so let's ask a couple more questions here. Let's see what we have. Give me 1 second while I pull some
Sure.
stuff up. So, like, what are some key concepts that the Zohar goes over? Like, do you find every key concept as and just like examples, the Ein Sof, Sephiroth, the Shekinah, Tikkun? Like, do you find those in every volume, or it's some volumes or some scriptures talk about that, or there's references about every aspect of Kabbalah within each page?
The so each one of the words that you said carries so much weight that they exist uh, as like the they are they are the junior warden and the senior warden of like every concept of Kabbalah. They
Okay.
surround and support
Hmm.
everything. The Shahina is the source of reality.
Okay.
So that means that like it's either within us or we create it through lighting luminaries, or candles. That space, that undulation, that effulgence of the candle,
Hmm.
that can be interpreted as a Shekhinah, the source of reality. And so, like, does that ring in everything that in Kabbalah? Yes, because every moment is a wellspring of the Shekhinah. It's if every moment is the now, just being born again. So this idea of the tikkun means the reason that we're here.
Hmm.
The klipot means husk, and the klipot is means it's the thing that's blocking the light from getting in.
Okay.
And the faster we remove the klipot,
Hmm.
the sooner we can work on our tikkun. So these concepts exist in everything we talk about in Kabbalah, because the whole point of us being here is to change this world for better. So it's never really done. But what undergirds every principle
Hmm.
is the idea of fulfilling our tikkun, and working past that husk. So yeah, everything has to do with this. But that's why. Let me break it down for you like this, brother. The
Yeah.
other day, I was hosting a full moon discussion, and I bought all the books, I bought all the texts, and here I was like, okay, everybody, you have your pad and pen. And I was like, blah, 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 blah. Some people, it was just like, I like, were just like, what am I doing here? Because like, there was just so much information, so much. Like, what do you do with it all? At some point in time, people had to stop writing because I just realized I just felt like offloading, like,
Mm.
because there were so many disparate levels of knowledge and, why people were there. I was just like, I felt that it was the right time to just like decide who I was,
Hmm.
what kind of a teacher I was going to be by just blasting out the information and seeing like, okay, what was the least that they got? Because that means that's where my first lesson is going to end going forward. You know, once I saw blank stares, I was like, okay, that's for next time. But let me just keep going.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's the
be,
problem too for teaching is that sometimes as a teacher, like especially this type of knowledge, it's hard to answer something or explain something in like 1 or 2 sentences, right? It takes like it's just to explain one concept or one sphere or one Hebrew letter. It's just so expansive where it's like I always say we have to kind of dumb it down. We have to dumb it down. We have to make it palatable for a beginner to understand it because sometimes it gets overwhelming for people.
yeah, it's overwhelming, but at the same time, like how many how many people right now are working with undiagnosed uh maladies,
Of
be it
course.
mental, physical, emotional, and the idea of having to navigate life with whatever undiagnosed issues people may have, it's a difficulty.
Yeah.
So Kabbalah and a lot of spiritual groups and stuff like that exist as a way to help us navigate these difficult questions and confrontations at a very basic level, because it forces us to kind of like level up in terms and be accountable to ourselves. One of the major tenets in Kabbalah is like, at the end of the day, set some time aside
Hmm.
and think about your day. Was I a moment there that I could have done this better or that? And then after you discuss that with yourself, let it go. Let it go. Because we have to be here in a place of positivity. That's our role.
Yeah.
And we keep the negativity in this little place at the end of the day to really be hard on ourselves so we can be better for the next day. But that means that we cannot stay negative on ourselves all the time. And if that is a great lesson to learn from Kabbalah, if that's just one lesson to learn in Kabbalah, I think I think it's worth studying.
That's great. But it's funny. They always say this too. It's like a lot of people talk about being negative, right? But
Hmm.
with a battery, you need a positive and negative charge.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
just gonna say that.
Yeah.
And not and it's understanding. It's like the best way to look at it is the tree of life, right? Is
Hmm.
there's the pillar of mercy and severity.
Hmm.
You need both, but then you really need to be balanced within the middle way. So in a
Yeah.
way,
We're two New Yorkers here, buddy. We're two New Yorkers here. I'm work like I'm working on developing my chesed because my gebura
hmm
is off the charts, So like,
yeah, come
but
over to Jupiter, man. Jupiter side, come over
well,
to that.
yeah, I'm obviously playing with that, but the knowledge of that, like, where we are kind of structures who we become, and like, but spirituality helps us carve, space for a higher entity or idea to kind of override
Yeah,
our lower baser kind of things. The Cathars were really onto something, and that idea of positive and negative is very real.
yeah,
Um, but to that point, it's like, I think that the Cathar view is that the world that we inhabit is saturated with such negativity
hmm
that, to like, I'm not saying toxic positivity, but I am saying that, I'm not contributing to any negativity. I
yeah.
try not to.
Good.
But the and it's like, what's the point of all these spiritual studies? Like, if I'm still going to be an asshole to people, like,
Yeah,
that's,
you're right. Yeah,
yeah. It's like, so and it doesn't mean that I'm not going to be. I'm human, but like, when I am, it just weighs so much more on me, and I think it's just like one of the things that we go through as a mystic. We have vibrations, and they're coming off of us, but we know it.
yeah. It's awareness, right? You have to have awareness.
Yeah, yeah.
Have to have awareness. The words are a two-edged sword, right? So they can hurt and help people. So there's power in the tongue. These are all stuff we learn in the New Testament, really. And
Hmm.
it's understanding that, and the more
Hmm.
you're aware of that, I like to teach people is just your words are spell. So be careful what kind of spell or what you say, because that
Lovely.
creates or attracts your reality.
Couldn't have said it better. I could not have said it better.
So let's go to practical connection here. So how can someone work with the Zohar today?
Simple. Like I said, that there is every part of the year
Hmm.
has to do with one of the books of the Zohar.
Okay,
So
great.
that means, realistically, you can cycle through the whole Zohar within 12 months.
But do you need every
And
book to do that? You need the whole volume, like every book?
well, no, I mean, there's plenty of apps that like
Okay.
have the
Oh, good.
Zohar,
Oh,
and you
okay,
can
great.
either scan just a portion of it,
Hmm.
uh, every day, or just like, 4 times a day, whenever you want. But the
That's great.
point is to scan it, to read it, to
Hmm.
understand, that it's another way of jumping into a cycle, a recurring cycle. We have the lunar calendar, we have the Zohar readings, and look at the Hebrew calendar in terms of like the high holy days.
Yeah.
The reading of the Zohar are very much tied to the high holy days because the stories that we talk about correspond to the lessons to be learned and garnered. So, how do you work with it every day? Number one, make a decision that you want to and that you're going to.
Okay.
And the second thing is to, if you can physically get the Zohar, physically get it
Mm-hmm.
and bring it in. That's ideal because, as anybody who studies Kabbalah will tell you, having the Zohar in your house already is a tremendous boost of energy.
Wow.
And so I've always made sure that wherever I move, that's one of the first things I bring with me. Zohar.
That's great. So, is it about reading, meditating, or simply living with spiritual awareness? Like, what's the best way to connect to it? Is it just reading it, or is it
Yeah.
meditating on it, or
Well, it's reading on it first
okay,
because just reading it, there are benefits. There are absolute spiritual benefits to that reading. As far as meditating on it, of course, but talking about it with other people is the highest form of energy
okay,
because that unleashes all the proper discussion channels, the possibilities. We are all together. We together make the reading special because we are the vessels at the moment, bringing it to life. It's almost like what is a lodge if not the members of it? It's not the actual structure. It's not the book. It's the words. It's the activating. It's the sharing. So, if if is it just a reading? Yes. Is it the sharing of it that creates more light? Yes. All of it? Yes.
excellent. That's great. So now, how do the teachings overlap with paths such as like alchemy, masonry, or tarot?
Well, we talked about the tarot one at length because every Hebrew
Yeah, we
letter
did.
is
Yeah. So, there's
corresponding
any
to a
overlaps or like? Okay, good.
well with masonry. Well, there's the Lesser Key of Solomon is definitely
Mhm.
something that's referenced a lot in terms of like esoteric circles. It's more. I haven't studied it as much. It's something that I'm interested in learning more about, but it's like really like there's so much to study.
Yeah,
Um, but the Lesser Key of Solomon is where we get a lot of our understanding of activating certain energies. And there's a continuing dialogue between Lesser Key of Solomon and some aspects of Masonry that we celebrate even now, specifically the cardinal directions
yeah.
and activating that kind of energies. Yeah, but
That's great.
as far as other spiritual orders and the Kabbalah or the Zohar specifically, I can't say the Zohar specifically with anything other than a referenced material, but the Kabbalah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, you said it first that the idea of activating Yud Hey Vav Hey, the Chaturamakan, by inserting letter Shin in the middle.
Yeah.
That right there is working with the Kabbalah, the activated letter Shin, one of the three mother letters, and it
Yes.
stands for fire.
Hmm.
You know, so you can see how right by just touching that little touchstone, yes, all of that discussion just is starts there. All of the elemental aspects are fantastic to me. The but the one thing that Kabbalah magic is not something that I've explored because the study of the letters of familiarity, the readings,
Hmm.
they seem to be all consuming. I encourage people to learn about it if they want to by way of the Lesser Key of Solomon. It's something that I will check out, but right now, I look forward to hearing from others what their experiences are.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like realistically, or not within certain groups, there's like path workings, there's different grades that connect, especially with high magic groups, with each sphere of the tree of life. So you're going through that sphere. Some of them you might be using like a tarot or some other talismans, and meditations. to connect to that sphere and what it encompasses and what it means, and then you're learning how to go through the different paths to get to a different sphere, and then when
Wow.
you're in that sphere, you're in that sphere. So right now I'm in the sphere of Venus, and
Yeah.
it's you
That
know
sounds like some group work right there. That sounds like some group work.
it's powerful. It's like
Yeah.
coming to life, and that's exactly how I feel like there's one thing to read stuff, which is great. Meditate is great, but the more intention you put, and there's, if there's and when you actually could go into like
Yeah, but where
as
does
above
somebody
so
go to find
below.
that out? Where does somebody go to find that out? Like I attend groups, but like I don't exist in the Sephiroth of Venus. Like how do I get the Sephiroth of Venus? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm kind of like playing and I'm kind of not. It's like that's what I'm trying to study. And I think my readings can get me there. But the thing is that to hear you talk about it, it's like, well, there seems like there's a party on the other side of that door, and I'd like to know more about it.
Seek and you shall find, right? Knock and the door
I
shall be open unto you.
am I on the right path here with this whole Lesser Key of Solomon vibe or what?
Lesser Key to Solomon is more of a ritual to invoke spirits or
Mm,
daemons or demons, as you might call them, right? So it's almost like the Abraham, but it's its own ritual, and you're using different ceremonial garbs and regalia and tools, and there's different things you're putting down. You have a certain type of altar, to invoke these beings, right? For whatever. There's rituals for whatever you're looking to accomplish, right? And is that a good way to go up the tree of life? Maybe not, because that's not really what its intention is. Really, it's more like you're invoking, and I don't want to say their names, right? But you're invoking one of these daemons, right?
mhm.
But you're going through a hierarchy of angels and purification, and you're making circles and candles and incense and all this stuff, and you're trapping it in something, and you're petitioning it to do something for you, or to
Yeah.
imbue you with some type of wisdom and stuff. It's very dangerous. Very dangerous.
Yeah, I hear you. That kind of like lineage of work, it's intriguing, but I'm really found it. I don't have to poke the bear. There's no reason to poke a bear. I
Yeah.
don't know about a bear. I
Hmm.
don't want to find out that way about a bear. It's like, you know what? I'm glad you wrote a book about finding the bear. Thank you. I will continue to read about the bear and to vibe on the bear, but I will not poke the bear.
Yeah, there's a lot of safer ways to do it. That's why, if you're looking to ascend the tree of life, I recommend, to all the viewers, find a system, right? That is, high magic driven, that's, maybe Hermetic Kabbalah driven, and they're gonna work with you through ascending the tree of life. But they're not easy to get into, they're not easy to find, and it's tons of work. It's not for someone that's trying to dabble with this stuff. It's high commitment, and it takes a lot of discipline to
Yeah.
progress in it. Not a lot of people last in it, really.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. So I have a last question here, and then we could keep the conversation rolling. There's no we could cut in, and we do after talk too as well. But what's one passage or story from the Zohar that still speaks to you personally?
Okay. It's a passage of the Bible that is discussed and discussed and discussed and discussed and discussed and discussed and discussed, so much so that it's now part of our meditations in ways that we don't even know about. And that is the moment that Moses crosses over the Red Sea. That specific moment is so referenced in every in every Shabbat. It's referenced in every synagogue every weekend. It's pulled out and it's read over in the Torah. You know, the passage. Why? Well, what happens there is that he's Moses is being pursued with the entire, with everybody from Israel, and they get to the Red Sea, and then, he's saying, "Follow me. We've been chosen. We can do this." And he goes in first. He goes in up to his nose. He has to have that much faith until he can't breathe anymore, until that the breath of life has been shut off. You know, and he is there, totally, relying on Chesed, and that's when things part, and they're able to move through, and then behind them the waters close up and kill their enemy, those pursuing them, cut them off. In the Bible, those immediate moments are captured in three specific lines. I'm not going to go into where exactly they're from. They're from Exodus, and in fact, here, let me just look it up. Exodus and crossing the Red Sea, but there's something that's called the Shem Hafremeshes. I've never been able to say it right, and I use it every day.
Those are the 72 names of God.
Yeah, right.
Shem Ham Faresh,
The
yeah.
How do you say it?
The Shem Ham
I'm,
Faresh.
I'm serious. Like, you will tell me, and I will read it, and it has escaped me for at least a decade. Shem Hafremeshes, and I'm cool with not being able to say it correctly because I live by the 72 names of God. Because let me explain.
Yeah.
Um, those three lines
Hmm.
that describe the crossing of the Red Sea were laid on top of each other. And the first line was written, as all in Hebrew, right to left. The
Hmm.
second line was written the way that it would be written in Egypt. So the first line was right to left. The next line was below it, written left to right.
Really?
And the third line was written right to left underneath. So you have three lines of text overlaying each other. The first line going this way, second line going that way, third line going this way. And each combination of three letters represents one of those 72 names of God, because each one of those three lines had 72 characters in them. So I'm telling you that that passage,
Hmm.
and the fact that I utilize it every day, it it's imbued with so much meaning, like that I get choked up thinking about it. I mean, this is an entire history wrapped up in a moment,
Yeah.
you know, and the power that was concentrated of in that belief in that one moment was so, like, like compressed into a diamond, so much so that they could take the letters that describe it and make it a blessing. So you ask me for a specific passage that from Kabbalah that stays with me. The power of those three lines, you know, and how we tread over them every day with this Shem Hafrem.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Shem Ham
it
Faresh.
speaks to it. Yeah, every day I pull a card from the Shem Hafrem, and every day, and it's my guiding principle for the day, because each combination of three letters, can be read through the tarot, and then all of a sudden you're reading with your emotions again. You know,
Yeah. I believe there's also Psalms that can they do the same thing with certain Psalms that make them as well.
you need psalms that go with the
Yeah,
Shem
there's
Hafrem.
it's something I was studying recently. It's something about there's different Psalms and uh the letters, the first letters, the last letters. So some of them you connect and they make all the 72 names, and there's certain of those scriptures also expound on the actual name and actually what it means. There's like reference with a scripture as well.
Yeah. In fact, like, to be funny, the people, when they were studying Hebrew in those schools that you were traveling by,
Yeah.
They would take the each line from the Torah and read it backwards, read it forwards. They'd read the lines on top of each other. They'd read like almost like how we would search for words in a crossword puzzle.
Wow.
They would take the letters and they would change the position. So if an A equals one, they would make B equal one, and so they'd shift all the letters. And then they'd reread it and to see if they were missing anything, and they do that backwards and forwards. And this kind of shuffling of letters is called notarikan.
Hmm.
And they were so they like to take apart each little line of the Torah speaks to the level of searching that these schools were involved in. You know, it's fantastical if you think about this. um, you know, one of the blessings that we have living in contemporary society is that we have indoor plumbing. It's not hard to get food. We don't have to go and hunt down a rhinoceros, and carve a steak. We don't have to make fire with wood. But that also means that the choices that we do make carry that much more weight,
Yeah.
and we choose not to enlighten ourselves. We choose to, you know, do something less vibrational versus higher vibrational. And so, but there's more humans than ever. And what are humans if not, the we're an experience of God. But if you don't know that you're an experience of God, then the tree falls in the forest kind of situation.
Yeah.
And part of Kabbalah, the real part of Kabbalah, is to share that ability to say to everybody around us, like, "Hey, being here means that the universe wants you to be happy. It wants you to be happy, and to start asking, what does happiness look like to you? You know, that's really what it is at the heart of it."
That's great. Yeah, I think we're living at a time where you could have accelerated soul growth right now. Accelerated, like you said. There's no hunting, no killing. There's a lot of stuff that the everyday person doesn't have to do to be able to survive, and that it would take so long. We have everything at a fingertip. Just type. All right, search right here. And and you could get any book delivered, right? And everyone knows how to read, right? And write. So it's at a time where the ground, is fertile. It's ripe. It's ripe to plant the right seeds at the right time, so you can reap that
Yeah.
harvest.
Oh yeah. Every moment is like, I have a bunch of alarms that go off every day, but one of them goes off at 4:19 p.m. every go, and the point of the alarm is, how can you take this moment and elevate it? Because like any moment can be elevated, and that's what ritual is. That idea of what is elevating a moment. Elevating the moment is saying, like, hey, I'm not in it alone. Like I am the maker of my future, but I do this at the behest of a higher version of myself, or the grand architect of the universe, you know, and tying into that, a chimpanzee doesn't bless their food, you know,
Yeah,
we do. That's elevating a moment.
that's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible. We can do incredible things. We can
Yeah,
help people, but we have to understand that there is no separation. It's very, very difficult, especially like living in New York. Like, when I'm on the G train, and like it's very hard to remind myself that we are all one, especially, when
but like I
showtime
always say,
starts.
it's not impossible, my brother.
It's not impossible.
These are
It makes showtime much more interesting.
these are these are the challenges and tribulations like that you go through. Like God is like I feel like always testing us, always testing to see how we're gonna act in that certain situation. Are you really walking the walk? Are you really talking the talk? And He's
Or
gonna put people in front in your around you to get at your patience and stuff. And you have
eh,
the decision every time how you respond or don't respond.
no. Well, that brings up the whole idea of this concept of the the God that the angel of light, that idea of Lucifer, the idea of I'm going to test you. I'm coming. Like, are you sure you're walking your walk? you know. Uh, that's definitely like there. It's always going to be there. Ah, in Kabbalah, they structure that conversation quite eloquently.
Really? Okay.
And oh yeah, I love it. In the Kabbalah Center, we'll teach you about the opponent, and
Mm.
that's a great metaphor. The opponent, because when you
Oh,
level
okay.
up, the opponent levels up. Great metaphor.
Wow.
Um, the because when we get better, the opponent gets better. It's like it's inevitable. That's why the stakes are always higher. One of the other plans is the idea of the bread of shame. We get things that we don't really deserve. You
Mm.
know, the idea of we should work with for whatever we have, and that when we're like when we are exceedingly happy or everybody's like shining accolades on us like yo you the man, fantastic, great job, gold star, like when you're feeling that like high, to humble yourself, to remind yourself that I'm just here to serve, I am just a man, and I'm just here to serve. But that when you're feeling super low and like you're feeling like POS and like you're lower than the gum on the bottom of your shoe, at that moment to remind yourself, hey, I am here for a divine purpose. And the point is to always find that equilibrium, and I bring that up because if it wasn't for uh, like little angel of light really testing us every now and again, then are you sure you're about that life, huh? You really sure you're about that life? You know?
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
So,
And
you have any closing remarks?
closing remarks, dude. Yeah, I think that we should all be starting book clubs. I think we should all network with our friends
Okay.
and say, hey, you know what? I have these books and I always wanted to, share them with you. And like, I'm thinking like, hey, maybe we should do a book exchange program. And like, what were those things called? Libraries? No, but honestly, it's like, I love getting a package in the mail, but to get a package, like when it's a book, is like really exciting to me because like there's always the anticipation of like, I'm going to read this book. And I don't read all my books, you know?
Well, it's funny because
But
at our Grand Lodge, we have a Grand Lodge library, right?
yeah,
And there's reading courses. We have I think 18 reading courses of all masonry, and you could pick whatever you want to start, and they'll mail you the book, and then you get the next one.
fantastic.
I've been doing it for the past couple of years. Oh, it's great. It's you learn so much that way, and it's like kind of like a structured way. You pick symbolism or Scottish Rite or whatever part. The first
Mhm.
couple degrees of masonry, and so I would look into your Grand Lodge, right, to see if they have something like that because I think you're gonna really love that.
Thank you. Yeah. There's actually, that is one thing. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to participating in the Lodge of Continuing Education or the Learning Lodge or something like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
in every state it might be something different, but and like we have some. It's like further education. They have they'll after you go through become Master Mason. They'll have different seminars or tools that courses to take to really hone in on what you learned or what the degrees were about.
yeah, closing remarks, I would say, meet with your friends, exchange books, just read, uh, find the time to light your candles and to drink your water and to light your incense. That's a gift to yourself.
Yeah,
I would say let's make talking about meditation and higher vibration more common speech amongst our coworkers. You know, let's make sure that people understand that incense isn't for fringe. It's a
yeah,
place of refuge. It's
you're
something
right.
that thrusts us back to the sense of scent is our strongest scent for like throwing us back into childhood.
Hmm.
You know, I would say that more than ever, we need men's groups, bringing men together and reminding us like to, what being a man is. Like, I think that's important. I also think that can be once again an opportunity to share books and written knowledge. I think that final note, I think that if you're reading tarot and you're committed to one system, I think that's great. I think that you should also, maybe it's time to check out a different system so you could really learn what system is that you really value, what it is that you really value. Because if you don't see things from another perspective, all you have is what you know. And with that, I would say that the knowledge of different esoteric organizations and groups, it's like not everything works for everyone. Nobody is meant to be a member of everything, and sometimes what might seem like a perfect fit might not be, and what isn't a perfect fit might actually be something that you might need to look into more. And how do we recognize this? I think that our insecurities, or like those things that give us pause, really reveal a lot about where we are on our journey, and what we seek. A lot of times it's things that we avoid. And like I said, one of the first things about studying Kabbalah is understanding the paradox there. So these are all these are all things to help us on our path, is to recognize how paradox just kind of is looming around a lot of our thoughts and the way that we operate in this world.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So, thank you once again for coming on the show.
Thank
I
you,
would
brother.
definitely want to get you on again, brother. It was great having a conversation with you. I feel like there's so much more, deeper we could go. But, we could stay there for the next episode. And yeah, once again, thank you. And I'm happy to bring you on the show again.
Oh, thank you so much, dude. I really enjoyed having you back stateside, and I'm glad that you brought some of that Camino here to the stateside. So please, man, be well, and thank you so much for sharing your time. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Take care.
Take care.